Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. This week hasn't been great for Bitcoin or Ethereum or the miners in general or the markets for the fact. But we'll take a look at what's going on there. Bitcoin right now is bouncing off of the 50-day moving average. We'll see if it can continue to do that, but we'll look at what's going on there along with the miners. And then we only have one story to really talk about, which is going to be on Stronghold. They closed on a 10 million private placement and they're buying about 5,000 miners, which is going to add about 600 petahash to their self-mining, which is great news there. And then two things that we're going to talk about in data-wise is how much the miners were actually generating last year in April compared to this year and what it actually means for them going into 2024 and 2025 after the halving event. Where would Bitcoin have to be for them to generate the same amount as they did last year? So we'll look at that. Then we'll also take a look at Bitfarms really quick. I updated the spreadsheet for you guys, so that's all done there. We'll just go over it and we'll call it a day, okay? So as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice. For entertainment only, please do your own research. I'm invested in the following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button. Helps me out tremendously as always. All right, so let's get into what's happening today in the markets. The markets were actually up today, which was kind of good there. S&P was up 0.09% to 4133. Dow Jones was up just barely, also 0.07%. to 33,808, and the NASDAQ was up also just barely 0.11% to 13,000 on that one. Now, Bitcoin was down also today. It's had a pretty rough here, 3 days here. We finished up down 3.52% to 27,253. We bounced off of our 50-day moving average, which you can see right here, which is the light kind of blue teal line here. And I said that in yesterday's video that, after we kind of crossed the 20-day moving average, I said next possible resistance or support is going to be the 50-day moving average, which is playing out that way right now. Bitcoin right now is kind of holding that line. Right now, if we look at maybe the 1 hour chart will show us a little bit better, but we're right on that line, as you can see here in the last couple hours here that we've been trading here. So it's been about 6 hours that we've been hovering right at that line. We'll see if we can keep it as support. If we fall below that, then I think we're going back down to possibly the 200 weekly moving average, which is going to be our next support. And then if that falls or fails, then we're going down to possibly our 200 daily moving average, which is the blue line down here. And that's right around our support at 23,800 roughly as well. So we'll see what's going to happen there. But right now it's looking like, we've bottomed out quite a bit here on the RSI. On the 1 hour chart, as well as on the 4 hour chart, you can see here that we're pretty low. We're in the oversold territory. So we may see a little bit of a pullback, or we could just see a nice little rally here happening. Too early to tell. On the daily chart, you can also see the RSI has come down quite nicely. I would expect it to come down just a little bit more, closer to the 30 mark here on the RSI, before we really start going back up and potentially getting to new highs of around, what's that one at, 32,000 something, I believe. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. We'll see what happens. We got the weekend. Hopefully nothing major happens over the weekend, but we'll see. Okay, so that's Bitcoin right there. And then we got Ethereum. Ethereum was also down today. It was down 4.89% to a close of 1,848. And you can see here that it is also bouncing off of the 50-day moving average as well. It's actually above it right now, which is good there. And then if that fails, then we're going down to the 200 moving average, daily moving average, which is down here at around 1,651. If that fails, we're going back down to the weekly 200 weekly moving average, which is at 1,480. Okay, so that's kind of the breakpoints that we have here on Ethereum as well. Right now, we can see that the RSI has come down quite nicely on the daily. 4 hour chart is showing that we're oversold on it right now. And you can see it bouncing off of that support of the 50-day moving average. And then the 1 hour chart is also showing that we were oversold, but we are kind of going up a little bit here. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll report on it when it does happen, if we fall below it, and we'll continue to monitor it, okay? So that's those guys there. Let's take a look at the miners here really quick as well. Any was down 1.62% today. And let me turn off all of these indicators here. We can see a better chart on the graph. So any was actually looks like it started up way down today, but it went back up, but it was still down 1.62% from where it ended up yesterday. So it's at 42 cents right now. Argo was down 1.37% to $1.44. Bit Digital was down, was up 4.07% to $1.79. Bitfarms was down 2.35% to $1.04. Cypher was down 3.42% to $2.26. CleanSpark was down 0.77% to $3.87. Cores was actually up 5.12% to 36 cents. DigiHost was down 8.57% to $1.60. DMG was down 2.46% to 22 cents. Greenidge was down 0.5% to 58 cents. Hive was down 3.29% to $3.23. Hut 8 was down 1.74% to $1.69. Arbis Energy was down 0.25% to $3.97. Marathon was down 6.2% to $8.93. Mawson was down 2.7% to $3.16. Riot was down 3.49% to $10.52. Soluna was actually up today 1.78% to 27 cents. Stronghold was down 1.66% to 98 cents. And TeraWolf was up 1.4% to $1.45. So it's been a rough week, like I said, for the miners, Bitcoin, and the markets in general. It's just been a kind of weird week for us. But nonetheless, we had a little bit of a pullback in Bitcoin, which is good. I like seeing that. We're getting a little bit, we were a little bit overhyped. It's good to come down a little bit in price. And I think we're going to possibly, once we figure out where the bottom is on it, we'll have a nice rally after that. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on it as always. And let's take a look at the network hash rate really quick. I forgot to do it yesterday, so we'll do it today. Let's see what that is shaping up to be. The 7-day average right now is showing 345 million terahashes on it. And on the 1-day average, we can see that we came down to 319, back up to 351. So we are still bouncing between those lines here, but it looks like almost the increase in network hash rate is kind of slowing down a little bit. At least we're having a little bit of a, maybe a plateau a little bit before we possibly go back up once the miners get new miners installed and running again. Okay, so it's kind of plateaued a little bit here in the last month, I would say, it looks like. Okay, all right, so that's it for that one. Let's take a look at our stories that we do have, which is only one. So Stronghold Digital Mining closes 10 million private placement and announces addition of 600 petahash through the purchase of 5,000 micro BT What's miners and 50 Bitcoin miners. So this is good news. It'd be even better news if Stronghold actually started providing monthly production updates. And the reason we really don't cover them that much is because they don't provide that. So it would be nice to see that happen again. And hopefully it will if they start getting things turned around here. But here's what we have. So Stronghold today announced that it had closed the previously announced securities purchase agreements with an institutional investor and the company's chairman and chief executive officer, Greg Beard, and sold 9 million shares of Class A common stock and share equivalents to the institutional investor and 1 million shares of Class A common stock to Mr. Beard, in each case at a price of $1 per share equivalent. The company also issued to the purchasers warrants to purchase an aggregate of 10 million shares of Class A common stock with an initial exercise price of $1.10 per share, subject to adjustments, and such warrants are not exercisable until 6 months after issuance. Okay, so that's good news there. They're not really diluting shares. They are selling what they have, and that's good there. The non-broker private placement closed on April 21st, which was, I believe, today. And gross proceeds from the private placement were 10 million before deducting offering expenses. Okay, so that's good there. And then growing hash rate capacity by over 20% through highly accredited purchase of Bitcoin miners. So yesterday, it looks like April 20th, Stronghold entered into a master sales and purchase agreement to acquire 5,000 new latest generation micro BT What's miners and 50 miners for $15.50 per terahash per second. That's actually really good. The only one that I think got a little bit better deal was maybe CleanSpark. I think they paid $13 and some change for the Antminer S19 Pro Pluses, which are, I believe, 120 terahashes. So I think they got a little bit of a better deal, but I'm not sure if that includes shipping. These do include shipping here. So that was still a really good deal for them. The M50 miners have an average hash rate of 118 terahash per second and an energy efficiency of 28.5 joules per terahash, so that's good there. This addition of approximately 600 petahash per second of hash rate capacity is expected to grow Stronghold's total delivered hash rate capacity by over 20% to over 3.2 exahash per second and approximately 3.5 exahash with all remaining contracted miners delivered. So that's good news. That's good to see that they are actually growing, right? It's kind of hard to keep track of them where they are because, like I said, they don't provide any monthly updates, which would be nice to get those, and I would love to have them back in our family here of miners that we do cover. But we will talk about it when they do provide some good news. So the company expects to receive and install the M50 miners in May of 2023, so that's only a month away. So that's good there, and the company continues to believe that it is on track to meet its previous disclosed 4 exahash guidance for 2023, which I think is pretty good there. We know that they had returned a lot of miners back in the fall of 2022. They couldn't pay for. And at that time, they stated that they were going to focus more on electricity production than the mining itself. But it looks like they're ramping up the production of Bitcoin as well. So that is good news there. So anybody that's invested in them, I think this is great news for them. But it would be nice to, like I said, get monthly production updates from them as well. Okay, so that's it for that one. Nothing else here. You guys can read that over if you like. And then let's take a look at actually what it would cost or what the miners were generating last year compared to this year in BTC production. So today at lunch, when I was thinking about this stuff, one of the things I wanted to take a look at, what was the network, well, not the network, but what was the reward that the miners were getting for like the average 100 terahash miners? And looking back at last year, comparing it to this year and what that difference is, and where would Bitcoin have to be for it to be the same amount, right? Last year in 2022, more towards the beginning of the year, they were getting really good revenue per day per miner. And I wanted to see what it would be like if we went back to that price. What would Bitcoin have to be in 2024, 2025 potentially? Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. Hopefully it all makes sense here for you guys. So here's what we got. April of 2022, Bitcoin price was around 41,400, which is right here. And then the 100 terahash miners on a daily revenue averaged about $16.49, which is really good. Then if we look at April now, 2023, Bitcoin price right now is on average about 29,000 and some change here for the month so far. It's obviously come down a little bit, but the average is around 29,000, and the average per 100 terahash miner is about $7.62, right? Up or down a little bit here, but right around that range. So that is a pretty big difference here between what we had just a year ago and now. Two things obviously happen here. Bitcoin price has come down. From then, we've also had the network hash rate increase quite substantially as well. So if we look at some of the numbers here that we have here, let's see here, this one was, yeah. So Bitcoin price is down about 12.4 thousand from a year ago from where it was. That's about a 30% decrease in price on that one. But also, if you look at just the revenue here between these two, it's down about $8.87 per miner, and that's a 53% decrease from it. So one attribution to it is obviously the Bitcoin price is down, but the network hash rate is also up as well. So that's where you have the combination of 53% decrease in it because of both price coming down and network hash rate going up. Okay. And if we wanted to get to the same price per miner or the same revenue per miner as we had last year, Bitcoin would have to be right now about $64,250 in change, up or, plus or minus a little bit here, but roughly right around there to get about $16.49 as the same revenue that they had last year alone. Right, that's a pretty big increase here from where they were. That's about a 50% increase from last year alone, and that's basically what we're seeing here with this change in revenue from 1 year ago to now. Right, you would have to increase basically 50 some percent in that alone to get to where we would need to be right now, roughly. Okay, so looking at that, I looked at what the miners were making. Basically, if you had 1 exahash at that time per day, in April of 2022, you would have about $164,000, right around 165, you could say, thousand per day on those miners. Whereas now you're making about 76,000 per day, right? Pretty big difference there between those two. And if we know that a lot of miners were purchasing at least miners back in 2022, 2021 as well, and deliveries planned out through 2022, and some of them got pushed back out to 2023, which we're seeing a lot getting installed as well now. So if the miners actually grew, if they 2x their exahash from last year to now, and 3x it to now, 4x it right now, how that would impact the revenue that they actually had on it. And you can see here that if they grew their hash rate at least 2x, they would be pretty close to where they were making it last year. If they 3x'd it, they were making quite a bit more here, and 4x even more here. So 304,000 if you 4x'd your exahash. And then if we look at where Bitcoin price would have to be in 2024 and 2025, potentially after the halving event, well, at that point, Bitcoin would have to be probably closer to 150,000 for them to still make that same $16.49 per miner on a daily average, right? That's a big swing here from where we are, well, where we were just a year ago. So looking into another year, 2 years out, you're having to go up to quite a bit here, almost 3.5x in value just to get the same amount for the miners, given that the network hash rate is going to increase. So I'm including that kind of in here as well in this calculation as well. So we're right around 150,000, give or take a couple of thousand up or down on that, okay? To get back to that same one. So we can see here that in April 2023, you're making 76,000 on 1 exahash. And in 2024 and 2025, you'd be making about 164,000. If you just left everything alone, that would be basically the same thing as you did in 2022. So not much growth there as far as revenue is concerned. If you 2x'd it, now you're looking a little bit better. You're looking at 152,000 per day on 2 exahash, I guess you would say. 329 after the halving event. And you're back to basically what I'm trying to point out with these is if you're not growing as a miner, you're going to be stuck back here, back in 2022 numbers, whereas the miners that are growing, they are going to be generating a heck of a lot more revenue going forward based on that information. So with all of that being said and done, I hope this all makes sense for you guys, and I hope it's not too confusing, but there's a lot of numbers in here, as always, and a lot of the stuff is in my head, so I'm trying to explain it as best as I can. Okay, so what I did here on this table here is I took all of the miners that we do have. Where were they in April of 2022? Where are they supposed to be by the end of this year or early next year potentially? But these are a lot of the numbers that are represented of where they're supposed to be by the end of this year, right? So Hut 8 is kind of an interesting case here because they're going through a merger with USBTC potentially. So I increased them to 5 exahash, given that they're going to be merging with them. So there's, I think USBTC has about 2 something exahash of self-mining. So I'm giving them to get to maybe 5 exahash potentially, right? So that's that number here. So they would have about almost a 2x increase, not quite, but they would have a 1.76% or 1.76x increase, which is pretty close to having a pretty good growth here from just a year ago to being a year out. Okay, potentially Bitcoin goes to 150,000. I'm thinking Bitcoin is going to go a little bit more than that, but I just wanted to go on the lower end and to see where they could actually get to with the same revenue from last year. Okay, looking at Riot was at 4.7 exahash. They're going to be at 12.5. Plus, I think they're going to be getting a little bit of an added bonus with their immersion cooling. That's going to bump them up a little bit. But that's kind of where we have them right now. So that would be a 2.65 X increase for them as well. So they're going to be somewhere between here. So that's definitely going to be a pretty good increase for them as well. Cypher at that time last year was not mining at all. They started out towards, well, for the self-mining really, it didn't really start out until December of 2022. So that number is kind of missing there because we were at 0. And they're supposed to get to about 5.56 exahash, I believe. But they're getting pretty close to that as it is right now. So they're kind of an unknown, but they are definitely growing nicely. So nonetheless, they're going to benefit from this as well. Hive was at 3.4, but this was also including their GPU miners. They were mining Ethereum, converting it to Bitcoin. They're currently, with everything that they reported as being purchased and going forward, is at 3.4. They haven't reported anything else as being purchased going forward. So they are basically flat where they are right now. So they would be at, if they were making 164,000 a year ago, in the next year and a half or something like that, this is the best they could possibly do if they get back to the 3.4, roughly right around there. Marathon was at 3.9 exahash. They're supposed to get to 23. That would be almost a 6x increase for them. So that's really good there. DigiHost was at 920 petahash. They're supposed to get to about 1.1, 1.2 something. I know they reported, I believe they're going to be growing some more. They could possibly get to maybe 1.5, 2 exahash. Not sure. That would be at least a 2x for them at that point. Iris Energy was at basically 1 exahash. They're going to be about 4.5, potentially higher than that. So that's going to be at least a 4x for them. So that's really good for them as well. Argo was at 1.13 exahash. They're at 2.5. We don't know if they're going to grow anymore. So that at least is a 2.2x growth for them. Bit Digital was at 574. They're supposed to get to 2.8. That's a 4.8 growth for them. DMG is at 600. They're supposed to get to 1.2 exahash. That's a 2x growth for them. Bitfarms was at 3.3 exahash. They're supposed to get to 7.5. That's at least a 2.2x for them as well. CleanSpark was at 2.4 exahash. They're supposed to get to about 15 to 16 exahash by the end of this year. That's going to be about a 6.5x growth for them. Mawson was at 1.4 exahash. They're supposed to get to 1.7. I'd like to see them grow some more. They're supposed to get more miners or at least more capacity online, possibly grow more than that. But right now we have that just 1.2x, so not much growth there. Definitely need to get it to at least 2.8, if not higher, to at least get that 2x on them to see some growth for them. TerraWolf was at 182 petahash. They're relatively new miner as well. They've been doing a great job growing here this past year and into this year. They're supposed to get to about 5.5, 5.3, somewhere around there. That's going to be, well, going to be a huge growth for them, 27, almost 28x growth for them in that time frame if that happens. And then we got Sphere 3D was at 100 petahash. They're supposed to go to about 1.7. That'd be a 17x growth as well for them. We'll see if they can actually execute on this. They've had nothing but trouble getting there. And we got Core Scientific was at 8.9. They're supposed to be at 17. They've, I think, sold some miners as well, but not much. But they're supposed to be right around 17 exahash. So that would still be pretty close to at least a 2x. So they should have an improvement over at least from April of 2022 to April going into 2024 and 2025. Okay. So I hope this all makes sense, that growth is really imperative for these miners in order for them to grow their revenue. If you're not doing that, you're not going to be really growing it, and you're going to be stuck behind, and unfortunately probably may not survive. Okay. So let me know what you guys think of all these numbers here. I know there's a lot, and if you have any questions on it, I'll try to explain it. I've also did a Twitter post on this that's out there. You guys can take a look at it. I think it maybe explains it maybe a little bit better than I could explain it here with all of these numbers that are going in. It provided less numbers in it, but I didn't go into detail as far as how that has an impact on how much the miners have to actually grow to get the benefit of it, even with Bitcoin coming down, hash rate going up, and the halving event, and after the halving event, Bitcoin going up. Okay. All right. So that's it for that one. All right, a lot of numbers there. Let's take a look at Bitfarms. We'll go through this relatively quickly. So we've done this already for Cypher, CleanSpark, and I think Hive as well. We're going to go run through this really quick. You guys can see the numbers here as they are. Bitfarms, 236 million shares out. The stock is at $1. I think it's $1.03 right now. I forgot to update the pricing on this. Market cap is about 252 million as it is. Current hash rate of about 4.8, getting to about 7.5 exahash. They have about 2.7 exahash left to install. They are 63% operational, and future hash rate growth is about 56. And then you can see BTC mined has been kind of, looking at this chart now, I can see that they've been kind of, I mean, the best month was in August, and they've been kind of floating around the higher end of the 400s, and then come down a little bit here, going back down a little bit. And we can see here the differences as well from month to month as far as how many Bitcoins they mined each month, more or less. They had a pretty big drop here in February, down 99, which was unexpected here as well. Then when we look at their BTC HODL value, it's only 4.76% of their market cap of that one. Hash rate we already talked about. BTC HODL, they HODL 435. They sold 384 in, this would have been March. And BTC mine was 424, so they sold less than what they mined, so that's good there. And then you can see BTC HODL coming way down here from a high of 6,000 plus. And then it's been coming down here quite dramatically as the months went by here. Okay, BTC per exahash efficiency has been pretty good for them. It has come down a little bit, but it's in line with where the other miners are as well. So that's good there. And then you can see BTC sold here month over month, and definitely sold a lot in June. June was a tough month for a lot of miners. A lot of miners sold a lot of Bitcoin at that time. And that has kind of weaned down a little bit here. We had a high again of in December where they sold 1,755. But other than that, it has improved as well. Hash rate growth has been pretty steady here. You can see here that in April, they increased by 607 petahash, but after that, it's been kind of between 100 and 200 and 300 petahash growth each month. So it's been pretty steady here for them as far as the growth has been concerned. Monthly revenue has also been kind of up and down here a little bit. We had a high of 15.2 in April and a low in June of, looks like 8.39. And December as well was pretty low. But then they've kind of come back up here to at least the 10 million mark here, almost 11 million mark here back in March, just a month ago. And you can see the Bitcoin sold value here, how much they sold. They sold 66, almost 67 million in June. That was their biggest one. Second biggest one was in July, 34, almost 35 million there. And then December was 30 million as well. And then after that, it's been kind of consistent here, right around $9 to $10 million in sales of Bitcoin each month. Okay. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Last 4-quarter revenue. So these are actual numbers. And you can see revenue has been coming down here, except we do have this current quarter, which is an estimated number. The 29.15 million is an increase from Q4, so that's good. That's in line with what we're seeing with some of the other miners as well. And then you can see the last 4-quarter operating costs have been coming up here as well. And I think that's mostly to do with the Argentina build out and trying to get things going there. I think that's possibly why the costs have been going up for them. Other metrics: cost to mine 1 Bitcoin minus depreciation. So it has come up here a little bit here to 12.17 thousand from 9.97, but that's kind of in line with what we're seeing right now with some of the miners as well. They're right around 12,000 to 13,000 because the network difficulty has gone up. And then Bitcoin mined quarterly, kind of up and down, for the most part up. We had a little down quarter here in Q4. Debt to equity ratio also has come down a little bit, so that's good. So they've been paying off their debt, which is great to see. So lower is better on that one. Current ratio, higher is better. That's actually come down as well because they have been paying quite a bit of their debt off. And you can see here the total current assets, they had 323 in Q1 and all the way down to 69 million in Q4, but they had total current liabilities of 142 million in Q1, and that's down to 67 million only in Q4. So they have been paying down debt, which is good to see as well. As far as institutions have been increasing for the most part, and so has the percentage owned by institutions. And we did peak here, looks like back in November, December area at 17.59%, went down a little bit here towards January and February, and then back up here in the last couple months as well. So that's good there. Price takers have come down. We still only have 1 buy rating for them, and that's been pretty consistent here throughout. And then when we look at the numbers here that I have for them, current Bitcoin monthly average is about 29,000. Current quarter revenue estimated is about 29 million. Last 3 quarters is 100 million, almost 101. Combined total is 130 million. So 50% net income from gross revenue. We're looking at 65 million. P of 20, I have them at $5.52. And at 75% net income, that would be at $8.28. That might be a little bit on the higher end. Well, I don't know if it's going to be on the higher end or not, but they're currently at about $1 or something. So I still think they're way undervalued. Even if we go down and give them a P of 15, they're still at $4.14 and $6.21. So definitely still undervalued in my opinion on that one. Okay. So that is it. Like I said, it's going to be a pretty quick one on that one. And as always, let me know what you guys think. So spreadsheet, as always, is available to my Patreon members. Thank you to everyone there for their continued support. And love getting the questions there. Love getting the questions from you guys here as well in the comments. So keep them coming. And we'll see what happens over the weekend. The weekend we'll do a Bitcoin versus the miners as well. See what happened there. Obviously, Bitcoin's going to be down. We'll see if the miners actually did better than Bitcoin, being down less, or if they were down more. I'm guessing they're going to be actually down more than Bitcoin was down this week. But we'll take a look at all those, and then we'll probably power through a couple more of these updated spreadsheets as well. Okay? So that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great weekend. Bye.